What is the word? It is Lord Third, your number one trash player, aka the Garbage Goat, aka the Lost Boss, and I am also known as Jackie's Bay. I am here ready to get these proceeds from this sweet-ass lawsuit that I have against the House of Mouse, and I'm also here with my best friend.
Also here with his best friend, his goof on the troop, sitting here with the King of Dreams, looking so clean and mean, trying to burn down the House of Mouse, nothing but an ounce of this gasoline. I am the Ranger, and we are
the Sly Guys, delivering the hottest hot takes on all things nerdy and culture. And goodness gracious, we have a great show for y'all.
Oh,
because we're talking about some hot things and some hot wings, I guess. No, not really, because we're talking about the Steam Deck as well as new movies that just hit the theaters that we saw.
Yeah, we're hitting a couple different things, everybody, because there's a lot to talk about. And as always, we give the hottest of the hot takes. And you know who's giving the heat, giving the business? Giving the business to Nintendo. Nintendo's feeling a lot of heat. It's feeling the steam from no other than Steam, actually. Yeah, there's no other pun there. But
yeah. Yes, indeed. The Steam Deck was recently announced. Valve, the company behind some of the biggest PC games in the last couple of decades. Half-Life, Portal, Team Fortress, Dota 2. The list goes on.
And on.
But Valve recently decided to make their foray into the console market, and particularly the mobile console market, with the new Steam Deck that is slated to see release in third quarter 22, second to third quarter 2022.
Now,
starting from $400 going all the way up to $650.
Yeah, now, for those that don't know, Nintendo's had the handheld market on lock for the last, I'd say, 3 decades. No one has come close. Several people have tried, and all of them have failed. And for those that are talking about the PSP, yes, that did in fact fail. I don't care what you say. We all played some of those games, and none of them stand the test of time, because you know what I have? I have 4 DSs to my non-existent PSP. That is what it is. Now, Nintendo is now facing just a little bit of heat from Steam, because one thing that Nintendo doesn't have that Steam does is a massive library of games that were once locked onto the for the PC is now available on handheld. And where people are really, really excited, based on the memes and based on just speculation, what you can accomplish through emulation and being able to mod the thing as well. Now, not only do you have your PC titles, get the right emulator, you now have your Nintendo titles. So now you have everything you could possibly want at the power of your fingertips. I'm Thanos with Reality Stone. Reality can be whatever I want it to be, baby.
Indeed. As the Steam Deck was announced, Gaben has declared war on the grandfather of gaming, Nintendo, as he comes in and slaps his big Steam Deck on the table and says, I am ready. Are you?
Acknowledge me, senpai. Acknowledge me. The student has now become the master. And here's the thing, everybody. The memes are, first off, hilarious, and I highly recommend that you guys look at these because they're absolutely hilarious. Now, we don't know what this Steam is capable of. There's only really speculation. No one has played it, and there's quite a bit of time until this thing comes out. But Nintendo came out with their whole new their Switch, and it's basically a more compact, slim Nintendo. Is it Switch? I know what the thing's called.
It's just a Switch Lite.
It's a Switch Lite.
It's a Switch, but like slimmer and
it's the same.
And more of a disappointment.
I'm paying more money for less stuff, Nintendo. I'm so sick of this because I had the same problem when they came with the Nintendo DS Lite, Nintendo DS Liter, and the Nintendo DS Lightest, and and every time it just got less and less stuff, and it was trying to make it slimmer, more accessible to everybody. But you're coming out with this product, and you keep trying to fine tune it, which I respect. I just hate buying a brand new fucking system every time I gotta do it. Like, you can't patch the motherfucker. That's dumb. But I gotta buy a whole new system to get some of the kinks worked out. Now, mind you...
Yeah, and the thing is, and there are hardware changes that people have been calling for that Nintendo has basically just ignored.
Right.
And I think that's the thing that is frustrating about Nintendo is their lack of attention to their fans in a lot of scenarios. Maybe not from the game designers, but from the ones making the decisions at Nintendo. There just seems to be a lot of neglect. One, Nintendo lawyers are some of the most hard-nosed, hard-assed lawyers in the video game industry.
They literally have no soul.
Anything and everything.
They have no soul.
Yeah, anything and everything that you could possibly do that is Nintendo related, if you don't have the go-ahead from them, they are slapping bans into your face immediately.
And rumor has it that these lawyers are featured in Dark Souls.
Yeah, as hidden bosses. You just have to sing the Mario World 1 theme backwards 5 times and they will appear.
Actually, just forward because it's copyright, so that's why they come after you.
Yeah, that's right.
They want that royalty, baby.
And yeah, it's bad. And so I think that's really the thing that has been frustrating for me, as I really like a lot. Nintendo puts out fun games, and that's the one advantage that they've had, is that they put out fun games. Their games tend to be solid, especially their first-party games. So the titles that they own, their Marios, their Zeldas, those tend to be fairly solid titles. Every now and then, like every couple of years, they have a dud. But ultimately, the games that they have tend to be in contention for Game of the Year almost every year. They have at least one that's out there, and that will keep a franchise going, especially when that Game of the Year game comes out on a single console. It's like you have to go to that one console. But I think that's the only thing that's going to keep them in the running. But I think the market share is going to shift a bit with the Steam Deck, because where Nintendo was this one stop for consistent quality mobile games, it's not the case anymore. You've got the Steam Deck, and you have a lot of companies now moving to phones, mobile devices, so phones and iPads and things like that. Even the most recent Call of Duty Warzone there's a mobile device version that is available, and people can play that way. There are a couple of other games, even MOBAs and whatnot, that are on phones, and ultimately there's going to be more competition for Nintendo. And the Steam Deck, I'm probably not going to get a Steam Deck because I'm not that interested in mobile gaming. But I mean, there are a number of people that are excited about it.
There are a lot of people that are excited about it, but not that price tag. $400, $600. I could buy a PS5 for that, or get my my sugar mama to buy my.
Or you PS5. Could buy a Switch, for that money. Again, the people who at the end of the day, so the Switch tends to run about $300, right?
Still?
It tends to. Yes, it runs about $300. I think it was maybe a little bit more than that when it first came out, but it runs about $300. Oh. You can get a Switch for about $300.
Oh,
now for $100 more, you could get a Steam Deck, and people are going to start making that decision of like, yeah, I'd rather play this larger library of better games for an additional $100. I already got these games on Steam. I already have the availability of them. I'm going to do it. And that's going to be I think that's going to really give some contention for Nintendo, because I think this is the first actual competitor in that mobile console marketplace in a long time.
Now, with that also being said, Nintendo's done a really good job holding this market, like you said, with having constant banger after banger after banger. And one of the things they do very well is that they stick pretty much to the same formula of what made the game a hit. I mean, you take Mario, for example. Mario, this plumber that jumps on blocks, make him 3D, and, Mario 64 is a thing. Then you give him a squirt gun, turns into Mario Sunshine. Now you got this guy on planets, but the concept is basically the same for each game. Yeah. And they take very little risk, and they play on that nostalgia factor of what made them successful. Same thing with Zelda. You got this guy, and it doesn't matter if he goes through time, doesn't matter if he's a kid, doesn't matter if he loops through time, it doesn't matter if he's going through the waves, the ocean, the wind, and that's waking up the wind, putting the wind to sleep. It's the same concept. You're finding treasure, going through caves, completing dungeons, and somehow you kill Ganondorf again. Right. And Metroid, the same thing. I mean, the games follow a similar formula. I mean, Pokemon is one of the biggest, highest earning IPs that they have. And each game, we all make jokes about this. You get 8 badges, beat the Elite Four. That changed with Sun and Moon, for sure. Mm-hmm. And people praise Black and White 2 for making a different story. But it's pretty similar. New region, new Pokemon, grab Pokemon, make them fight each other like animals. You get some sort of badge, beat the Elite Four, and then you play online. They don't deviate too much from the formula, and it brings consistent success. Now, when you talk about the Steam Deck, one of the capabilities that people are talking about, which is really going to make Nintendo sweat, is the fact that because it's basically a PC in your hand, is that you can download emulators. And the emulation is not only going to allow them to play a larger library, it's going to allow them to play most of Nintendo's library as well. And that's one thing that everyone's super excited about, is because why would and now that it's no longer Nintendo exclusive, it's whatever I can get on my Steam. I play Pokemon on my laptop through emulation. It's not hard to do. And this is where Nintendo has to figure out what's really going to separate them from this, because you have people that are trying to decide whether or not they're going to pay $300 for their Nintendo Switch Slim, or they're going to just buy the emulator, or just buy the Steam Pack and get the emulator, which people are already working on right now to make that work and be more competitive. I mean, Super Smash Bros. Melee got the emulation for their online play got shut down by Nintendo execs. Nintendo is scared of that kind of stuff, and Steam Deck is not going to be able to stop them. So it's going to be really interesting as far as how Nintendo's going to respond. I think Nintendo's probably going to stay tried and true to their formula, just because it sells and it works. I don't think it's going to change anytime soon. I mean, just like Pokemon, you have different generations of people that love different generations of Pokemon. It speaks to everyone in different ways. So just like the way they're doing Pokemon, they're kind of just doing the same generation. They're doing different generations, but it's hitting the same beats. Older players will come back, but it captures every new player, and they're banking on that nostalgia with the titles. I don't think Nintendo's going to change their game up whatsoever, but it's going to be interesting to see. But speaking about tried and true, I mean, you have Marvel that has kept it tried and true with a similar formula, and Black Widow is no exception to the Marvel formula, as we're going to jump into.
Indeed.
Because Black Widow is here, baby, after years and years of waiting. After years and years of waiting and seeing Captain Marvel and seeing Natasha Romanoff die, we now have a Black Widow movie, and we have some thoughts.
Indeed,
we do.
Indeed. So, as Black Widow was released a couple of weeks ago in theaters and on Disney Plus, streaming available on Disney Plus for $30, as we stated before, it was. I don't know. This movie was disappointing. It was. We're
gonna jump right into it, people. We're not pulling any punches.
I'm going to say, and you already know, spoiler alert, for those of you who haven't seen it.
Last chance.
This is what we're gonna be talking about for the rest of the time. So I suggest that you, if you haven't watched it, you intend to, and you don't want to be spoiled, I would say come back to the podcast, to this episode, when you've seen it,
and go see it in theaters.
For everyone else,
go see it in theaters so we can pay ScarJo, because we're not letting her lose money by you lonely people staying in your home to watch the Disney Plus. Go to the theaters, get the receipt, and let Scarlett get her money that she deserves. She's been long overdue, and we'll get into that more later. I got something to say.
but yeah. So this particular iteration, so Black Widow takes place between the events of Civil War and Infinity War. So between the two wars, it kind of shows you what leads Black Widow and Natasha to the place where she is in Infinity War, where she is reunited with Cap and the rest of the gang that was on Cap's side during Civil War. Now, there's an interesting approach that they take, because the thing about Black Widow is that at the root of who she is, she's a spy.
She's an assassin.
So
not just a spy, she's an assassin.
Yeah,
alleged.
Yeah, she's an assassin. She's an assassin. And her big thing is subterfuge and diversion. And so they were like, let's make an action movie with this spy/assassin. And so that's what we got. Black Widow. Woo! Everybody, exactly what you wanted. So, first of all, this was the great movie to come out in 2016 when it should have came out. Because this movie just seems superfluous in many ways. I know that it got delayed. I know that it had to get pushed back. I know they were looking for the right director and all that jazz. Yada, yada, yada. I know all of those things, but the problem is, when it comes to the execution of the movie, it falls short in so many different ways. It's hard to really be able to say, hey, I want this. Now, in its defense, I enjoyed certain characters. I enjoyed certain parts. Obviously, with everyone is going crazy about Florence Pugh's performance.
Oh, you mean Bae?
As Natasha's sister, Yelena.
Oh, yeah.
And David Harbour was there, I guess, and Rachel Weisz. She was Rachel Weisz. I mean, she's always Rachel Weisz, but. Honestly, there's so many parts of the movie where I'm like, this was great in that other movie that this scene is from.
Look, we talk about keeping the tried and true formula of Marvel. It felt that way. I mean, we even, all the way up to the third act especially, where we have a secret sky base. And we have to infiltrate that sky base. And it comes crashing down to a faceless villain. I mean, look, this movie has a lot of shortcomings. I will say for myself, I was entertained. Now, that doesn't mean that doesn't mean I'm not going to ignore its gripes. We're going to talk about those. Actually, we're talking about them right now. Some missed opportunities. Let's talk about the fact that you brought up, Lord, very correctly that Natasha Romanoff is a spy. She is not the Hulk. She is not Thor. She's not Steve Rogers or Iron Man. She doesn't take a lot of hits. She has to avoid taking damage because she is, like Hawkeye, very human. They even make it a point in the movie to talk about that. Yelena makes a nice, really funny quip about, some of your Avengers don't take ibuprofen after a battle. And she's absolutely correct. Yet they have Natasha taking all kinds of damage in the movie. To the point to where I am suspended in belief that this woman didn't take the super soldier serum. There was one part in the movie where we watch her sister fall and break her leg. and to the point where she's immobile. Her leg's broken, back's broken. Natasha falls from a similar height. The only thing that's different is that some things break her fall on the way down. And she's perfectly fine. Look, I'm not saying that she needed to come out with her whole body broken. But just because you show me her back bruised up doesn't mean that you can't, that doesn't mean that you show her every other place impervious to damage, dang it. Like, that doesn't excuse it. When does she become a tank? I'm sorry, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Takes you out of the movie. And that's one of my that was one of the things that stood out to me. But other just missed opportunities. I gotta talk about Taskmaster, honestly. We gotta talk about Taskmaster.
I knew you were gonna get there. I knew you gotta talk about it. We gotta talk about
Taskmaster because, like, here's the thing: we talk about similar movies. This reminded me way too much of The Winter Soldier. Way too much The Winter Soldier.
Wait, what do you mean?
What do you mean? What do you mean?
These were two different movies.
Two different movies? You mean to tell me the masked soldier that's a freaking Terminator that gets sent on missions that has no memory of or control over their actions and is an assassin that's been working in the shadows, that's been altering history through slight assassinations? Same movie. You're right. They're completely different. Because you know what? You know what the Winter Soldier had? Some fucking direction. So, because so you have Taskmaster, who their ability is to be a perfect mimic, and
that's their whole gimmick is that they have they can analyze the fighting style of the person that they're going up against, blah blah blah, and you're basically end up fighting yourself because they can anticipate what you're going to do and they can copy your fighting style, all that jazz. You know,
and you know what they didn't?
Comic book bullshit.
And you know what they didn't do? Have a fight where she copied the fighting style. Look, every scene with the first fight with Natasha, like, she gets snuck up on, and Taskmaster for whatever reason doesn't care to kill Natasha. She just wants to stuff in the car. All right, cool. Winter Soldier was similar. He's like, I'm on a mission. If you get in my way, I will kill you. Unless you were the mission. Because, like, he had a bout with Natasha where he shot through her to get to the person she was protecting, but didn't finish her off. So, same deal, right? But that fight, they do one flip, and it's like, oh, here it's gonna come. We're gonna see he's a mimic fighter. Nope. We cut to a training room where we're watching scenes from Civil War where she is copying the fighters. As a director, you could have easily just shown that when fighting Romanoff that first time. Why didn't you just do that? Okay, how about this? How about the Red Guardian is talking about, oh, and I fought Captain America, and we're all like, that's bullshit, because Steve was frozen while he'd been here in prison, so who'd you fight? We get to the third act where Red Guardian's about to face off a Taskmaster. Why not have her use the fighting style of Steve Rogers and see how Red Guardian fights against that? I don't know. Right. That'd been a cool payoff. Like, see if he actually did fight Steve Rogers, or a version of it. Because after watching Endgame, we know that there's a version of Steve Rogers that kind of stayed back in the timeline. So there could be a version of Steve Rogers that did show up, but because he can't meddle with the timeline enough, has to be very covert. There are ways to write this. You set it up, but no payoff. Or in the final fight where Natasha finds out that that the person that Taskmaster is the daughter of Harvey Weinstein. I did that again. Oops. Daughter of Harvey Weinstein, and who she blew up in a building. After she finds that out, and they don't have a fight at the end, she just releases her from control. Why not just have her? I felt that I would have been more compelled if she was like, yeah, I didn't really care what my father was doing. I really just wanted to kill you because you ruined my life. My father is a piece of shit, but you're the piece of shit that put me in this suit. Oh, by the way, spoiler alert, the daughter that Natasha blew up was Taskmaster the entire time. Yeah, I know that the build of Taskmaster was very mannish and looks like he could like bench 460 and squat like 1,000 pounds, but no, it's a woman in that suit.
Yeah, and it wasn't really a twist. Like, we all knew what was going to happen. We all knew that it was going to we knew that. Okay, it wasn't a surprise when it happened, because they were hinting to this little girl that she blew up the entire time and how she was so distraught over it, blah, blah, blah. We knew it. Okay, we saw it coming.
They hinted at it so hard, and you didn't want to believe Marvel was going to do it. You wanted to believe that the daughter would come back and like as a widow or something, or just some
correction. I didn't have any expectation that Marvel was going to be subtle about this, but I was just going to be like, you mean that we need a sympathetic villain?
Another sympathetic villain? You know, at least when Bucky was mind controlled, like, I don't know. I enjoyed what they did with the Winter Soldier.
See, the thing is, we had a rapport with Bucky.
Right, that's where I'm looking for. We had a rapport
with Bucky. We knew that, like, James Buchanan was in the first Captain America. So we knew Bucky. We knew that he had died. We knew that he and Steve had a relationship. We knew that that was Steve's best friend. We knew those things, okay? So there was more weight to the fact that Bucky was not around, and then all of a sudden he's this cybernetic soldier that is a foil to Steve Rogers. We knew those things.
100%.
And we felt that in the story. This is the first time we're hearing about Natasha blowing up her previous, like, the man who conditioned her to be a killer. This is the first time that we're hearing about the fact that she blew up this man's daughter when she killed him. When she allegedly killed him.
This is when she defected to S.H.I.E.L.D., by the way.
Yeah. This is the first time that we're hearing about any of this. And so it's hard for me to really feel much of anything in the story because they're just like, well, this is happening. This is why we're doing this. Everything is exposited by the characters in inopportune situations. Like, all right, I guess that's what we're gonna do. All right, that's how this is gonna go.
And on top of that, I really didn't feel Natasha was able to even just deal with it because the situation was, oh, she's obviously under mind control. Obviously has to be under mind control because, you know, I don't even know the guy's name. I always think he's Harvey Weinstein, but like he's obviously controlling her because why would she want to kill me? So she's not even able to deal with the fact that the girl, we don't even see the little girl or who she grew up to be, how she feels about being put in this suit. Like, does she blame Natasha? Apparently not. She blames her father for doing it because apparently she wanted to live out like her father put her there to keep her alive. So I guess she just wanted to die then. All right.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So let's explore that at the very least. But we don't get to do any of that. It just feels like such a letdown for that final confrontation. The Taskmaster was a freaking letdown. Built up to be this Terminator-like unstoppable force like the Winter Soldier, and it was just let me put some red dust in your face, man. Yeah, you don't hate me.
Yeah, and make you feel better. Yeah, we're gonna wrap all of this up at the very end.
At the very end.
And the thing that I think the thing that struck the wrong chord with me was the fact that so Natasha blows up this little girl, and it leads to her becoming the Taskmaster. And then at the end, like you said, she just blows his dust in her face, and she's like, "Is my father dead?" Like, yeah, we just blew up the base that he was in. He's for sure dead now, my dude. Dead. And then she was like, "Okay, cool," and she just goes on with her life. Like, she just stopped fighting Natasha. Natasha was the one that did this to you,
right? And it's like
like she's like, I just find it hard to believe that she's like, okay, we're all good now. We're gonna move on.
Like, I know I hate my father for what he did to me, but you put me in this position to begin with. I am still mad at you. And let's talk about the villain. Let's talk about this creep of a villain. They really want us to hate this motherfucker. They really want us to think he was a piece of shit. Now, don't get me wrong. He definitely is. But with their history...
100%.
With their history of sympathetic villains, you would have thought they gave this guy an inkling. No. The scenes that they shoot with this guy, you feel your skin crawl. Which, good on the actor that portrayed him. I mean, like, I really hated this guy. Like, for real. I hated this guy. But, he's talking about he's been fighting in the shadows. Fighting what, my guy? And the movie has a nerve to act as if like they were Hydra. Like this is what upset me about him. Like when we because again, I have to compare this movie to The Winter Soldier because it feels like the same movie, or at least what they are going for. It's a grittier, more realistic superhero film. Like, you literally have Natasha, who is an assassin. She doesn't have superpowers. Like, it's like it's like Bourne Ultimatum meets Marvel. That's what this movie was supposed to be like. So they had to set up this secret group of people like they're doing some shit, and it's so hard to believe because it's like, okay, I believe Hydra got away with being infected within S.H.I.E.L.D. because S.H.I.E.L.D.'s doing good works at the same time. So, like, it balances each other out, and it's enough under the radar. This guy's shaking hands with Bill Clinton. They show some random explosions, and he's like, I've been making my influence across the world. Doing what, my guy? What have you done? And even in his evil speech, like, nothing noteworthy. I've been fighting in the shadows. At least Hydra had a goal. Hydra was like, we've brought so much chaos into the world that the world has willingly given up its freedom. I'm down with that. I don't agree, by the way. I'm down with that. You have a goal. Right. This Harvey Weinstein looking motherfucker was like, I kidnap little girls and I make them into my widows. My widows do my bidding. So and and he's all like mustache twirly, like he's been guiding history this entire, like, bruh, all you've been doing is taking advantage of vulnerable little girls and making them kill people, I guess. But we don't even know why he's killing them. It's not, and that's the thing. It's not shown that there's like some end goal. You know, it's implied that he's like, yes, for the Soviet society, Mother Russia, blah blah blah. But there's nothing beyond that makes it like, oh, okay, this plan makes sense. No, this dude is just an asshole with no plan, right? I'm fine with the villain being a completely despicable and unlikable person, but there's no end game. There's no end goal for any of the plans that make sense. There's no, that's what he's working towards. You know, like a logical person would do. No, this dude just takes advantage for all that we know, this dude just takes advantage of vulnerable little girls, trains them up to be murderous women, and then he lords that power over them. Right, and lords it so much that they can't touch him because of his pheromones. What kind of BS is this bullshit? Like, you mean to tell me? Yeah, like, there's only so much comic book BS that I can stomach. My pheromones? And by this time, we're in, like, the third act. We're in the third act of the movie. And this is revealed, first of all, right? This is the third act of the movie, and they're still revealing more, like, mechanical information. And I'm like, bro, what? On top of that, like, they make him say in the most. There's 15 minutes left. Like, and he said it in such a he's a pervert. Like, he's like, your pheromones make it so you cannot harm me. You thought you could hurt me. Why are you whispering in her ear? Why? Why are you getting so close to her? Bro, she's right in front of you. Just use your inside voice. Just talk to her. I don't understand. And on top of this, so he's like, I'm now going to have an Avenger under my tool belt. For what, nigga? You haven't done shit with the stuff you have. So far, we have this Red Room, which first off has never been detected by anybody. S.H.I.E.L.D., Tony Stark, Wakanda. You mean Wakanda wouldn't have something to say about harming little girls? Wakanda? And no one can find this Red Room anywhere. And you mean to tell me you haven't done shit with it? Like, what would having an Avenger do for you? What would having an Avenger... Because you're obviously not doing anything, and here's what's first about the whole thing. Like, she's not even the strongest Avenger. Let's be clear. She's not even the strongest Avenger. She has espionage. So you have influence over Natasha, who works with the Avengers. Okay, we found out Natasha's gone rogue. All right, everyone can take her out, even Hawkeye, because he's done it before. You take on the weakest Avenger. Oh, I want the intelligence. Apparently, you already got it, nigga. You've been fighting in the shadows. What more information do you need that you don't already have? I don't understand. Exactly. Why you having Natasha is like, this is the end game now. As I twirl my mustache. Like, what? No. What? And And he wants to sit here and tell us his big bad plan that is actually not a big bad plan. And the only thing Natasha has to do is break her fucking nose to get past the pheromones, which I don't think that's how that works. But the movie explained it so that it says that it works, so I'm going to roll with it. But
right. I mean, that's the thing. You gotta. It's a comic book movie, so you've got to suspend your disbelief in order to fully enjoy it. You know, like that's just how it works.
I mean, we're in a floating room. We're in a floating building called the Red Room. that's been never been discovered by any of these super technological powers that we've been introduced to. Doctor Strange couldn't do anything about this. The Ancient One, like when you have our cavalcade of heroes that we have, and he specifically targets young little girls. I have a hard time believing that no one, and they say it like no one, like they're very expendable. Young girls are very expendable, which also touches on some real issues of human trafficking, which Marvel does a really good job of taking some real world topics and putting it into the movie where it's believable, because it brings up an interesting conversation about human trafficking.
Yeah.
Now, with that being said, why is this castle in the sky off everyone's flipping radar? I don't get it.
Right.
Look, like you had me where you're saying, I'm kidnapping young girls that no one cares about. Okay, I can believe that because human trafficking is real. That's a thing. But you mean to tell me this technological wonderland that you have floating in the sky was never discovered by the hovercrafts that we have? Like, you mean to tell me that even Ultron passed that when he hacked into the entire World Wide Web? You mean to tell me that Hydra, in all their wonder, that literally has S.H.I.E.L.D. under their belt, did not track this thing? Well, I just look, this guy's a piece of shit. He's a piece of shit, and they wrote him that way.
He's not even adept at his shittiness. That's the thing.
That makes it so hard. That's
the thing. Yeah, that's the thing that makes it so difficult for me.
They made him so shitty.
Yeah, I would say he's probably one of the worst villains in the MCU, in my opinion.
Right, all shit, no substance. Like,
yeah,
that's it.
Yeah, because it's like there are some. So you know, this is like the 5th time that I've gone back to like Daredevil, but Wilson Fisk is an absolutely despicable person, but you like the portrayal. Like,
oh no, I'm a Wilson Fisk man. Wilson Fisk for president of Hell's Kitchen.
Get the fuck out of here. I'd be damned. I'd be damned. But that's the whole thing. But you know, in universe, there are people who are like the moment in season 3 when he comes to the podium after he's been exonerated, and he's like, it's really the Daredevil to blame, after he's orchestrated all of this for the public opinion to turn against Daredevil and to truly believe that Daredevil is the villain, that Daredevil is the antagonist. You're like, this dude is fucking despicable, but damn, he did an amazing job.
That's a villain.
That's how you that's a villain. That is how you act. That is how you do it. I will go in talking about good villains in the end, and I understand, right? Wilson Fisk, especially that season 3 Wilson Fisk, that was a season 3. At that point, there were 30 episodes before that Wilson Fisk, right? So sure, build up. You can argue, okay, we didn't have time. Well, look at another movie, Guardians of the Galaxy 2, Ego.
Yep.
Great villain. Great villain. All of the motivation fits into the theme of the movie, the main drive of the movie. Ego. Despicable. Find out that he gave Quill's mother cancer. And as justification for his own plotting and scheming, killed his mom, whom he quote unquote loved, to fit his plans. But he did his thing. Again, that absolutely despicable, but man, he played that role. That was a good villain, right?
And this actor played this role but the writing didn't do him justice. And to your point, following the theme, everything that you have listed off, this movie could have fixed with the simple theme of letting go of the past. Like, here's a simple fix for this villain. His plan is to bring back the Soviet Union and the Communist Party, which, mind you, is an asinine idea, but it's a goal. At the very least, he can't let go that his party failed. That plays into Natasha.
And keep in mind, goal is baseline, because at this point, we don't know what his goal is. It's not clearly established. He's just doing it. So just having a goal, he's in a better place than where he is, where this movie leaves him. So
and on top of that,
continue.
And on top of that, like, it plays into Natasha's theme of getting over her past, getting over her ledger, what she's done, like as far as blowing up that little girl, and then facing Taskmaster, literally, like the physical manifestation of her past coming back to haunt her, facing off against the little girl she blew up, like him take responsibility for that. Yelena, letting go of the past as far as the things that she's done. Red Guardian letting go of his what he did for Russia when they sidelined him, and him trying to relive his glory days of being the Red Guardian. The whole thing of living in the past and being in the present would play through this entire movie as a simple fix to fix a lot of these issues that we have that come really out in the third act. Because the villain falls apart because what's the overall theme? Family. Okay. What's his plan through with family, or the destruction of family? How is he the antithesis of Natasha in this movie? Like, Natasha was a little girl, she protects little girls, and he wants to, take advantage of them? I mean, I guess, but how does that play to the rest of the movie that we've been watching this entire time? Like, they could have fixed it with just following what you just said, the theme of the movie. Heck, yeah. Lord, what is the theme of the movie? What's the theme of the movie?
Now, this, again, we can try and, based off of what they present to us, and essentially what Natasha says at the end, the theme of the movie is family, right? Like, that's what the theme of the movie is supposed to be about whether or not the people that you spend your time with are actually family. Because that's kind of where Natasha is at the end of Civil War. She saw the Avengers as her family. We come to see that explicitly in this movie. And for her, she's never really seen anyone as family, right? She doesn't know who her mother is. She doesn't know this quote unquote family that was falsified in order to further this regime was a farce. So that's not real. So for her, family isn't this real thing. Now, we can only say that from very harsh exposition that they have throughout the movie. Very forced exposition where it's about family. But that's apparently what they were trying to communicate. And there are certain scenes that work to that end of establishing that, hey, like, this is actually a family, and they're trying to work things out, and they're trying to actually resolve things and see each other as family. Sure, there are scenes where they do that, but it doesn't come together in a way where it's like, where it's rewarding to see that progression, right? It doesn't come together in this way where we're like, wow, they really are family. And this is from a guy who is an absolute shill for a found family trope in a movie or in a TV show. The found family trope, or this father figure or this mother figure is a better mother or a better father than my actual mother or father. That is quite possibly one of my favorite tropes, and I will die on that hill to this day because I'm absolutely shill for that type of story beat. And the fact that this movie was supposed to be about that, and I have to stretch to say that it was,
it's a massive
is an indicator that, is an indication that this movie was not written well to do that. And that's very disappointing for me. It's very disappointing.
And it's disappointing for the audience, too, because that's where the disconnect comes from. And mind you, audience, I can feel your fingers typing in the comments. Well, Elena and the sisters that came in Lena found out she had sisters all along, so therefore that's her family. You're not understanding what we're talking about. We're talking about how it plays through the entire theme, or how the theme plays throughout the entire movie. Yes, because they casually threw it in some parts of the movie doesn't mean that it's stuck. But let's talk about the widows. Now that we talk about family, that was hit and miss for me. The final fight scene, and this goes for all the fight scenes. Some of them, there's only like 2 that I thought were actually pretty good, and that was the first one with Elena and Natasha. And I want to say, I think it's really the only one that really stuck out for me. The first battle with Natasha and Taskmaster, because the first time we see Taskmaster, and so like it wets your whistle for more. So I will say that. But as far as the rest of the fight scenes, they kind of fall flat for me. But the final one between Natasha and all the widows, for me, really exemplifies what's wrong with this movie when it comes to the combat scenes. When we watch Natasha fight throughout all entire movie, she's very, what's the word I'm looking for? Acrobatic. With her takedowns, and she's very skillful and precise with how she takes down her opponents. Right? It's almost elegant. You know, she's almost the Avengers that's, they make a joke in the movie, she's always posing, looks like, and it looks like she's moving as if people are watching her. They even touch on it in the movie. But in the final fight scene, it's brought down to basic punches and kicks. I expected people of similar fighting styles to know how to counter each other, and seeing how when someone knows what you're about doing, you know each other's counters, how that plays into an effect. Like if you are a martial artist and you all are coming from, say, like a karate school or taekwondo school or a school of Brazilian jiu-jitsu, you know all the moves that the other person can do, and you know all the counters to that. So because of that, your fight becomes very, very complex and mentally. But how that plays out is that a lot of moves become ineffective because you already know the counter to it, which leads to a lot of back and forth because you know what's going to happen. It's what we expected to happen when we watched Natasha fight Taskmaster. She does a combo, they counter said combo, she knows the counter to that counter, and so far and so forth until one of them breaks. The thing is that the widows have on their side is numbers. So even if Natasha was a counter, it wouldn't matter because she's outnumbered. They didn't take advantage of this at all, and the choreography was very disappointing. It ended up with her being just held and just roundhouse kicked in the chest, which that's the best these widows can do. This is your top fighting force, is supposed to cripple nations and countries, and the best they can do is just roundhouse kick her in the stomach.
Right,
and that's so disappointing. I expected far more from this killing force. I mean, the first time we're introduced to these ladies, they're doing this routine in this literal red room. I thought it was just like I don't know, that's what they called it. It was a literal red room. Yeah. And they're looking all dramatic and shit. And I'm expecting like them to do all kinds of flips to Natasha, and they're all flipping each other's necks and on each other's necks and off each other's necks, and like some weird, just well choreographed acrobatic assassin kill moves, like even joint locks or something like that. Yeah, none of that. Just roundhouse kicks.
No, it's just roundhouse kicks and punches. Yep.
But you know what they did?
Because that's how. Yep.
You know what they did do? Diversity. I saw some sisters in there. Disney, I see you. I see you, Disney. I see what you did.
You pandering.
I see you pandering to me. That tokenism. I saw some black women in there. I saw some Russian, some black.
Yeah. I caught one East Asian woman in there.
And we all know that number should have been way higher for China. For East
I'm
Asian.
like, come on, son. Yeah, but I'm like, man, it's super disappointing, and I hate to bring it back to Daredevil or even just the Netflix MCU. Is the fight choreography, on top of the lack of really interesting fighting styles or fighting dynamics, you also have the fact that I can barely see what is happening in most Marvel fight scenes. Like you can hardly tell what's happening in a lot of those like fast fight scenes, and that's super disappointing. You know, even rewatching Punisher again, there are some really good fight scenes in The Punisher. There's some really good fight choreography, combat choreography in the fight in The Punisher. And it's really stupid that they're spending all this money on a character whose big thing, if they're trying to make Natasha be this fighting force, then give her some good choreography. Let's make it so that the camera isn't cutting away every half a second to a completely new shot. In that last fight scene with the other widows, I didn't even know what was happening. I couldn't tell which one was Natasha. Yeah, they're all in the same black suit, and there would be times when like somebody would hit a wall or somebody would hit the desk, and I'm like, okay, is that Natasha? No, that's another. Oh, is that Natasha? Oh, no, that's her. Oh, that's Natasha. But I thought that was the other. And it's like, bro, there's like 30 people in the same suit, and you have no idea what's going on. No, I'm like, bro, what is this? What is this? Yeah, that was a rough one. I gotta say that was a rough one.
No, it's definitely rough on that point. But let's talk. I want to hear your thoughts on this. So let's talk about how did this movie do justice for Natasha? That's the question. Did this movie do justice for Natasha?
For this being Natasha Romanoff's last outing in the MCU,
first solo and last.
Yeah,
that's so wrong.
For this to be what is essentially her send-off, this was a huge disappointment. And I'll tell you why. When you look at the characters who have been in the most Marvel MCU movies, and you run down the list, you've got Robert Downey Jr., you've got Robert Downey Jr., you've got Chris Evans, you've got arguably Samuel L. Jackson, Agent Hill, but in that, like, in terms of who has impact on the story and who has the screen time, Natasha Romanoff is up there, right? She was in Iron Man 2, she was in Avengers, she was in Civil War, she was in Winter Soldier, she's been in all the Avengers. She's consistently in these movies, right? And she's also in Infinity War, Endgame. She's in these movies. They play it in Endgame like she's one of the core characters whose story is being resolved in some capacity, right?
Right.
She dies in Endgame. Is one of the people who give their life so that the rest of the people who died in the snap or were snapped away came back. And this was her farewell. Tony Stark got his sequence, he got his time, he got his moment. Steve Rogers got his moment. But this is Natasha's moment? Come on, man. Come on.
Kevin,
this was a disappointment.
A huge disappointment. And Kevin Feige, I hope you're listening to this because I love 95% of the work that you've done in the MCU. There have been some questionable moments, like Captain Marvel. That being said, why not put this movie in place of that one? Because this movie, this being her first solo outing, and then also being her last solo outing, it's such a disservice to her character. Because not only did you not give us moments, or show us moments between her and Hawkeye, you told us about it. Like, you didn't give us clips or flashbacks of him trying to catch her in Budapest, which they make a great point to correct us on how it was said, because someone had to make a stink about that. To build that relationship. So we didn't get to see that. But this outing of hers, where it had such a little, it brought so much character development to a character that you were going to send off in game. Like, you could have put Captain Marvel in this, because the way that you had Captain Marvel, Kevin, had no impact on Endgame. Because as much as people say, oh, we need to be introduced to Captain Marvel, honestly, with the little amount that she had in the story, you probably could have either just put this movie further in the back and no one would have cared. I know I would not have cared. It could have been after Endgame. And I would have rather had Black Widow play instead of this one. The emotional impact of her. Because when you think about this, when you have the context of this story and then knowing how it all ends, the emotional gut punch I have of what could have been when she looks at Hawkeye, and we've now seen their relationship of why they're so close. And why she wants him to be happy. Why she, like, especially with the family aspect, because the Red Room took away her ability to have children and procreate. So now she can't have her own. So she loves Barton so much that she'd rather sacrifice herself for him because he has someone he can go back to. Or the fact that she thought she didn't have a family, but she found her way back to her family. Going through the whole theme of how she felt in Civil War, Infinity War, and even this movie. The reason why she sacrificed herself in Endgame. For my family.
Yeah.
Like, there's just so many emotional beats that this movie set up that would have paid off a lot better than Endgame than Captain Marvel did. Now, if they only had so many slots, I would have rather picked this movie over Captain Marvel any day of the week. Because Carol Danvers coming out at the end, you know, was it a shock? 100%, but the whole movie's a shock, and I honestly don't think people would have cared. And
she doesn't really have that much of a role. Like,
she was in it for like
she comes
at the end.
She's in the movie. Yeah, they made an entire movie to preview a character that was going to be in this Endgame. I think for like a total of like 10 minutes,
less than 10 minutes, and the thing is that like you can. You could have had a prequel with her, because I hear the argument say, well, we didn't know her power set. You didn't understand her power set in the movie she was in. So,
right, like, because at this point, it's been an entire, 2 decades?
Right.
It's been like 2 decades, so even then, that's a moot point. She didn't even have access to her full powers in the movie, in her own movie.
Right, and on top of that, why not just make that prequel after the movie just introduced? Have her introduced in Endgame. That's a great jump-off point for her movie that comes next. Oh, I want to see how Captain Marvel got to where she was going to be. Like, I don't understand why the conversation wasn't our first female lead wasn't Natasha. I don't understand that. Because the way that, like, Scarlett Johansson has done a phenomenal job playing this role. She's matured a lot throughout this role. She went from being extremely sexualized to a respected member of the Avengers, you know, and I mean, she was over-respected.
I do have to point out that I counted 7 butt shots in this entire movie, so that hasn't completely gone away. I got to point that out.
It hasn't completely gone away, but it's definitely gotten better. I will say that.
It has certainly gotten better.
It's gotten better. It's not, and let's be real, Scarlett. That's never going away. I'm sorry, that's never going away. But your contribution, but like it, I'll leave with this before I repeat myself. At the end of the day, this movie should have been shown far earlier in the timeline. It should have been shown. It should have been at least shown before Endgame. I mean, like before Endgame, after Civil War, and the fact that this was her first and now her last outing, done such a disservice to Scarlett Johansson that I think it leaves a bitter taste in a lot of people's mouth because it leaves so much to be asked for, and it doesn't set up a lot of cool characters. Yes, Yelena, I think is going to make it. She's going to do phenomenal. I think she carried. I think her back needs to be checked out because she carried a lot of this movie on it with her scenes alone, and seeing where they go with this because they had an end credit scene that plays towards. I don't know what they're building towards.
It's building toward the Hawkeye TV series. The
Hawkeye TV series. So that's gonna be interesting. But again, it's playing towards something that isn't Natasha focused. Like that's my problem with it. Like Yelena, I think was a phenomenal addition. She's gonna make a phenomenal Black Widow, for sure, and I'll definitely watch the hell out of it. But for a movie focused on Natasha, it felt like they were also trying to set up other stuff too, because they kind of have to, for it to be relevant for this movie and what they're gonna do next. This movie was a complete disservice to the character of Black Widow, at least where they placed it in the timeline. And Kevin Feige can learn from this mistake, because that's what it is. Because let's be real, if we watch Captain Marvel now, we'd be like, oh, that explains why she can absorb the ring, or not the ring, but the Power Stone. I guess. I mean, that's not any new information. Like, what were we gonna be in theaters? Like, oh man, this girl can absorb stuff. They didn't set that up at all. No one was saying that because
nobody cared. Nobody cared enough in that moment to say anything about it.
No one gave a shit. They said this girl's
that's a moot point.
This girl's strong as hell. I don't know why. I don't know why she needs backup at all. When Peter says, "I'm here getting through all that," it's like, bitch, you know who you're talking to? Like,
right.
Like, and like, she's got help. She don't need it. I don't even know why this is a conversation. Like, just have her fly towards it.
Like, I mean, it's welcome. It's not necessary.
Well, so to bring back that scene, this is what upset me watching it again. So they all take out their opponent, right? And then Captain Marvel immediately afterwards blows through like 30 niggas. like right afterwards. And it's like, why have both? Why would you have both? Why would you have her team of females do their thing? That's like you go to a gun range and you fire like 3 clips and one of them gets a headshot and maybe 25% of them hit on the body, and then the person right next to you headshot, the same exact place, and you're thinking to yourself, why am I here?
It's like why don't I just, not only do they get the headshot on the same target, but they shoot at 3 other targets and they're all headshots, the same location. 10 times in a row.
Another directing mistake, because there's no reason you should have had those 2 shots in the same sequence. Have Captain Marvel fly through a straight area. Why have her blow up just everybody in her path? I didn't understand that, because you made everyone obsolete. Like, I don't understand why Captain Marvel even needs a team at this point. Like, she just blew through everybody. And then, like, the only way you could stop her was hit her with a Power Stone. She's the strongest person here. And so, like, fuck, man. So, I don't know. Like, if... I still can't get over that scene. It's like, don't worry, she's got help. I wanted Brie Larson to be so bad, like, I don't need your help. And then she just goes, and like they cut out everyone else's part. Whoever's listening in the comments, if someone could edit this for me and send it to me, that would be hilarious. Where it starts with it shows she's got help, and someone audio in "I don't need help" by Brie Larson, and then it just cuts to her blowing through everybody. That would be hilarious, because that's exactly what that scene was. And I love the girl moment, but they undercut their own girl moment, man. I know we're talking about a different movie now, but they undercut their own girl moment. Like, why?
Yeah. So all this to say, at the end of the day, this movie should have been better. Movie should have been better. And I feel like it was I felt like it was kind of disrespectful to the Black Widow's legacy. I understand that there were things outside of the movie that got in the way of that, but honestly, man,
they want to change how this went.
Even just mention, it was disappointing. And for this to be this was kind of the first. Also, I saw Raya in theaters. That was the last movie that I saw in theaters. That was the first movie that I saw in theaters post vaccine. In terms of movies, this was the first summer blockbuster, first MCU movie in a long time. And man, it was disappointing. There were some enjoyable parts of it. There were some fun scenes. But overall, the movie was kind of disappointing, and I feel like they just completely neglected the legacy of Natasha. And so, hey, all I can say is Scarlett Johansson, get your money, because Disney owes you.
They really do owe you. And we didn't
get reparations, and
and we didn't get a chance to talk about it too much, because we're out of time on this one. But yeah, take a look at we want to hear what you guys' thoughts are. Take a look at the story between Disney and Scarlett Johansson. What do you think? Do you think she's owed money? think he's owed reparations? Do you think Kevin Feige really dropped the ball by putting this movie where it is instead of replacing it with something like Captain Marvel? I want to hear your thoughts, because this is what this 100%. Is about. It's about a dialogue, between us and our fans and our community here. And we can change the media that we receive. Us talking about it now will change it, because writers listening to this will hear the criticisms that we're saying, and you guys can make the difference. And if you can write a great fight scene, please do it. Call these people, because they don't know what they're doing. They really don't. They really don't.
Yeah. So, with that being said, hey, enjoy what you enjoy what you do. Hopefully it's not as disappointing. Next time, we'll see. I'm looking forward to more Florence Pugh in the MCU. Oh. See what I did there? It rhymes. And just like that, I'm Lord Third, your #1 trash player, aka the Garbage Goat. And I'm here with
the Ranger, no better than a stranger, asking, why are you so clinical? Sitting here, the King of Dreams, and we are
the Sly Guys, delivering the hottest of hot takes on all things nerdy and culture. And we are out. We will see you next week.
Next week, baby.